After the success of Resident Evil 1 and 2, is Resident Evil 3 a sequel, or rather an expansion of Resident Evil 2? Let's dig in and find out.
The most intense. The most horrifying. It's in your blood. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis. The nightmare continues, only from Capcom.
After the release of Resident Evil 2, Capcom was working on more games in the series. Originally, Resident Evil 3 was supposed to have the character Hunk in a cruise ship trying to attain another sample of the G-Virus, even though he already did so in the last game. However, when Capcom realized that the game wouldn't be finished to release for the PlayStation due to Sony's announcement of the PlayStation 2, they cancelled the project. Since Capcom did not want their fans to continue waiting on a new Resident Evil game, they pretty much promoted one of its spin-offs to be the third game in the series with Jill Valentine as the main character. This game was developed right along with Code Veronica that originally was intended to be the third installment. However, since that game was developed for the Sega Dreamcast, Capcom instead used this game as a third installment to end the series as a whole for the PlayStation 1. "24 hours ago, before the events of Resident Evil 2, Raccoon City is in chaos as an outbreak broke out with hordes of zombies swarming through the streets. The police, SWAT team, and a military group fought with all they could, but they were outnumbered and lost. The zombies had took over the city, and Umbrella was the cause of it, as predicted by Jill Valentine herself. Being one of the few survivors left in Raccoon City, Jill is on a run to escape, but the zombies were all over the entire city. She had no choice but to retreat to a building nearby until the zombie horde broke down from their groups. After she leaves, she travels on foot to her way to the RPD where she meets up with Brad again, who was already bitten from zombies moments ago. And by the way, if you don't know who Brad is, this is the same pilot who had left Chris and Jill hanging during the mansion incident in the Raccoon Forest. I guess you could say that karma comes around in full circle, since a new bioweapon Nemesis shows up and kills Brad right on the spot in front of Jill. Earlier, before Brad was killed, he tells Jill that Nemesis is coming and he's going to kill all the remaining members of STARS. Now, whether you choose to fight Nemesis or not, she'll escape into the police station. And right after she leaves the police station moments later, she meets up with Carlos, who's a member of the UBCS. He explains to her that they were hired by Umbrella to rescue any civilians in Raccoon City, and we already know that plan didn't pan out too well. Anyways, Jill later meets up with two other members from the UBCS, Mikhail and Nikolai, who's the leader of his team. He explains to them that they're heading to the LZ and the clock tower to get rescued. However, in order to get the cable car running, they need to get some supplies. After Jill collects all the supplies they need for the cable car, Nikolai gets killed off by zombies after doing some questionable things to another member of the UBCS. With Nikolai presumed dead, Jill, Carlos, and Mikhail travel in the cable car in the direction of the clock tower. Nemesis gets on board to cause problems, and Mikhail sacrifices his life with a grenade just to blow up Nemesis off the cable cart. Jill and Carlos lost control of the emergency brakes, and they crash into the clock tower. After they meet up again, Jill rings the bell in the clock tower to signal the chopper for rescue, and Nemesis arrives to shoot it down with a rocket launcher, and later he infects Jill with the T-Virus. Jill, in a fight for her life, hurts Nemesis bad enough for him to retreat to fight another day. Jill falls unconscious, and 3 days later, Carlos runs into a hospital nearby to seek a vaccine to kill Jill from her infection. And on his way back with the vaccine after the hospital was rigged with explosives, Jill is cured. She gets up and moves on foot to a cabin in Raccoon Park to where Nikolai was hiding at, and he reveals that he's secretly working with Umbrella to collect combat data from the creatures. The UBCS working for them were nothing but pawns in this sent to Raccoon City just to be killed off. Anyways, while Nikolai runs away to collect more data, Jill fights a massive worm and she kills it. She then makes her way into an abandoned factory where Carlos is at, and he pretty much spills the beans that the US government is launching a nuke in Raccoon City to wipe away all the T-Virus infection. Jill gets into another fight with Nemesis and beats him, just to get her red car to escape in a chopper near the factory. In the control room, Nikolai, who was already in a chopper, prepares to leave the city, shooting his guns at Jill. Now whether you choose to fight back or talk some sense into him, the choice is yours. When Jill goes down into the courtyard, she fights Nemesis one last time, in which she destroys him with a big railgun and shooting him up close with a magnum. Now where all hope seems to be lost when they reach the helipad, a second chopper shows up for rescue, and it's none other than Barry Burton, who helps them escape Raccoon City right into a missile barrage, blowing the whole entire city up into flames. And that's the whole entire story of Resident Evil 3. Most of the gameplay takes place in Raccoon City, where locations are divided up with buildings to go into. Each and every playthrough would always be different than the rest. For example, whatever items you seen on your first playthrough won't be the same item you saw earlier. And the same goes for weapons and ammos as well. In this game, you can destroy any destructible environment such as barrels that can do some serious amount of damage to the zombies. Okay, now that was stupid. Roaming around in Raccoon City was a great change of pace. Although certain parts of the city are connected together as the other games before it, I don't feel as claustrophobic as I did indoors, and I don't have a problem with that. Although, it would have been nice to explore more areas in the RPD, like in Resident Evil 2. I guess the developers wanted to focus more on outdoors than indoors. But there is one thing I always wanted to nitpick about. If the game takes place a day before Resident Evil 2, how the hell did Leon and Claire access the other part of the rooms if they're boarded up? Did they break them down to get across?
It's just a video game, bro. Don't question it.
I'm just saying, bro, how the hell did he manage to break down every door board? With the new use of doing a complete 180 turn, it was much easier to avoid enemies. Not only can you walk upstairs with the use of an action button, zombies and other creatures can also walk upstairs too, and they are more aggressive in numbers. And while there are many other creatures to fight, the ones I can't stand the most are the hunters! Who in the hell said it was a great idea to bring them back, Capcom? Did somebody complain that the lickers were too easy to kill? I mean, come on, cause one wrong move and it's off with your head. Oh, I hate them so much. On the bright side, Jill can dodge and evade her enemies. Now while it sounds cool and all, it is not easy to pull off. I personally think it's dumb to aim and shoot in order to dodge right when the enemy is about to attack. The use of it working is 50-50. I had better luck avoiding Nemesis because of timing compared to most enemies. I think the option would have been better if the dodge function was mapped to a button to make the game flow better. I could only guess the developer chose to go that route in order to build tension. Kind of a cheap way now that I think about it. Anyways, the weapons in this game are a little more complex, and the same goes for ammo. For the first time ever, you can make your own ammo type thanks to the reloading tool. By mixing in different types of gunpowder, you can make your own type of powerful ammo. When I reviewed Resident Evil 2, I was a bit too critical at the time about the puzzles not being challenging enough. In this version, puzzles are a lot more harder than they used to be, and they are different at each playthrough. Out of all the puzzles I hated the most, the water sample is the one I hate with a serious passion, and I think most people here would agree with me.
Oh my fucking...
Nemesis is hard to kill. If you think setting the game on easy would make much of a difference,
congratulations, you played yourself.
What's really intimidating about Nemesis, if you choose to fight him, it'll be a tough fight. If you choose to run from him, he will chase you room to room. I guess you could say that Capcom really loved putting their players in a sense of paranoia because they did the same thing with Mr. X from the last game. Even though Nemesis looks hard to defeat, he really isn't because there are plenty of ways to beat him. The handgun, for example, is one of the best weapons to use against him. Although it doesn't do as much damage as a shotgun would, the firing rate and dodging are more beneficial. Fun fact, playing this game in hard mode is very rewarding. For each time you beat him, he will drop something very special that can help you out, such as weapon parts or more health. Here's the insider look. The creation of Nemesis was inspired by the T-1000 from Terminator 2. Shinji Mikami stated while making this game that he wanted to introduce a new kind of fear into the game, a persistent feeling of paranoia. And I think it shows for its time, but the problem is, I don't think Nemesis is that scary. I think Mr. X has a better feeling of giving players paranoia than Nemesis ever did. I mean, nothing can top breaking through a wall twice to make an impression, and that happens when you least expect it. Cause you already know Nemesis is coming. For instance, why did the music change to this? You already know something is up and...
Is that the best you can do?
I guess not. It is only after you beat the game in hard mode 8 times you unlock all character epilogues and find out what the character's been up to. Jill is out looking for Krista and Umbrella, Chris is out somewhere drinking some tea, Barry is saying goodbye to his family to help Chris and Jill, Leon joins the US government, Claire looks for Chris, Sherry is taken into custody by the US government, Ada is preparing for her next mission, and Hunk is somewhere out there flying away from Raccoon City, smiling in the distance. And that's pretty much it for closure. But not only that, there are many costumes Jill can wear, such as her throwback outfit and even his costume from Dino Crisis. Beating the game also unlocks a new minigame mode called The Mercenaries Operation Mad Jackal, where you play as Carlos, Mikhail, and Nikolai who have bombs attached to them. If they don't reach a room in a certain amount of time, here you can kill zombies, chain of kills, and do more to earn yourself more time. Whether you die or complete the mission, you earn money to buy weapons and gear for the main game, and it's worth it. Especially if you do the infinite money trick by dodging this dog for a long period of time. And that pretty much wraps everything as far as gameplay. Overall, Resident Evil 3 is a game that is short and challenging to say the least. But what do I think about it? Well, let's recap. The story isn't all that great. It's like a filler with Jill being forced in there. The reveal of Nikolai being the bad guy is very similar to Albert Wesker. I mean, think about it. Both of them using their units as pawns to collect combat data for Umbrella. It's not that original. But the best part about the story was the aftermath, and that's about it. As far as gameplay, it wasn't a better improvement compared to 2. The enemies didn't look all the same, and it's probably one of the best looking PS1 games from the series. The only thing I didn't like about it, how short it was. The soundtrack is okay for the action pieces, but for the horror bits, it sounded pretty whack. So after going over everything on my list, for the pros and cons, we have a good aftermath, gameplay improvements, replay value, extra content, and a rewarding hard mode. For the cons, we have a weak plot, game isn't all that scary, and the game is short. If I were to give this game a rating, I would give it a B. Now I hope you all enjoyed the review because it's been a long time for me since I reviewed a Resident Evil game in general. And it's all thanks to Resident Evil 2 remake trailer that's really got me hyped for next year. And I can tell just from looking at it, it's a lot scarier than the original and the storytelling feels a lot more grounded. I hope the remake does well one day so that Capcom could do a remake of Resident Evil 3 just to flesh out the story a bit more so it doesn't feel like a spin-off. Anyway, since we got that out the way, wanna see what I'm working on next?
I am Alexia, Asper.
Yes, I will be looking at Code Veronica X next. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed the review, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing the video with your friends. And if you're interested in more content I have to offer, click the subscribe button so you never miss a video. Until next time guys, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.